Episode 87, the coronavirus and kids
And sports.
and sports.
Yeah, man.
It's kind of a mixed topic.
I know, right? It was a thrown together thing because timing with the schedule and all that, like I told you before the mics came on. But
Hey, man, the good news is there's a fight this weekend. The UFC is coming back.
oh, is that what our buddy was talking about? I didn't show you the post.
No,
All
I
right.
didn't see any posts, but yeah.
I think I knew who's fighting. That's going to be good.
Tony Ferguson is going to fight, golly, what's the kid's name?
Is that this
Gagey.
weekend, Mother's Day weekend?
Yeah, the Mother's Day weekend.
We're going to
Yeah.
have to talk about this over the air or off the air, man. My brother's coming in town. I got to see. Oh, my goodness. Okay, we'll talk about that. Listen, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, the podcast, where you get to see the world through the lens of a real mental health and substance abuse therapist, knowing that this is not the delivery of therapy services in any way. Feedback and discussion on throughatherapist'seyes.com, the podcast blog tab. Craig, you got life coaching going on. Unbeatable Mind Life Coach. This is Craig Graves hanging out with me, the co-host, and I am Chris Gazdick, and I got the book coming out soon sometime.
Yeah, man, I'm happy for your book. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, they're doing the cover now. We're
Oh,
in
really?
cover design.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
our logo for the podcast may change as a result of this, guys, so keep an eye out for that. Hey, we got the Facebook Live going. I'm not sure how many folks are on watching right now, but if you have questions for us during the show, then please type it in there.
Yeah, we're going to get used to doing that. We're experimenting with the Facebook Live deal. We'll get better and refined so you'll know what to expect. We'll probably kind of, get definitely a routine going so you'll know when it's on. You can be kind of looking out for that. We're really trying to do some new things here at Through a Therapist's Eyes. Listen, this is going to be a different kind of show in the sense that we're just doing really a little bit of a shorter concept. We're not going to go very long today. It's kind of a little bit of a filler show in the sense of, a couple of thoughts that I had specifically about the coronavirus, really for the purpose of bringing up awareness on kind of what's going on all around us. I know we're all aware, but through my eyes as a therapist, I've been thinking of some things, and you wanted to do some COVID-related shows, specific topics, and I'm trying to comply, Mr. Graves, with your request, and this is what that is. So what this is just a coronavirus short, kids and sports. And I'm really going to be curious as we go along. Gave you the notes ahead of time to be thinking about it, particularly on the sports version. But how you see these concerns, man. I'm really curious in your brain and what you're thinking, because I've really kind of begun to become very aware of the high level of concerns that I have about kids, children. It feels like adults. We've got work at home and stay at home practices that are different, and we'll adjust to that. We'll kind of get our norms set up. As a matter of fact, I had some people in my office tell me, it's like, I'm starting to feel like I got a routine thing going, and I think that generally adults will kind of find ways to adjust and get okay, but kids, I really feel like they don't even know kind of what's going on that's affecting them, and that they're really going to be struggling. And so I wanted to go down through some of those, and maybe you can kick in your brain, with what we could do about it and how to go, because I didn't really prepare that part of it in my show prep. I just started kicking through, more and more concerns about how the things are going on for kids. So let's try this first one on for size. For instance, in school, the biggest thing that's affecting kids is they're not going to school, right?
I'm not sure if that's the biggest thing or not, but definitely that's a huge factor.
Right. That brings on all the other social things and all the other aspects, but not going to school is kind of like they're working from home. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if we realize that, they've also got all the other things that they're kind of really concerned and freaked out about. Kids as young as 5 and 6 years old can have OCD. They're struggling anyway. And they don't have a voice to be able to put towards that. And so part of my therapy work with people is helping a child, which, by the way, if you're a parent or a loved one of a kid, part of what you could do is really just sort of help them figure out what it is that they can't really voice, because they don't really have the intellect, particularly at younger ages, to be aware of what it is that they're feeling and what they're thinking. But By the way, I need your help on the timer again because my timer's up there on the Facebook Live. Man, this is all very different. I'm trying to get used to this new crap. I got to get my flow down. So anyway, let me get back to where kids are. Particularly in the transition years, man. If you think about it, kindergarten and first grade is the primary transition year. That has been blown up. But all the transition years is how kids are really being affected in school. Kindergarten, first grade, I'll come back to that. Fifth grade going to sixth grade, right? And eighth grade going to freshmen. Mm-hmm. And then seniors that are leaving. Mm-hmm. And ironically, I got two of those right now. Really? I got a freshman and I got a senior that's leaving high school.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And those transition years are really, really jacked up. Because when you're in the sixth grade or in the fifth grade and you're getting ready to go up into this big middle school thing, you really need that prep time at the end of the year to like get geared up, to get kind of ready to like, oh my gosh, what's this going to be like? Or in the sixth grade, like, okay, I'm in middle school. What am I doing? Right? My ninth grader, he's a freshman. I remember very distinctly, he had a conversation with me. He's like, Dad, you remember what it's like? I'm just trying to get used to school, and I'm in high school, and
yeah. I see your point with your point with the seniors, man. But the other guys have had they had half of a year, so it ain't a complete loss. I mean, they've at least experienced and tasted school and middle school and high school. I mean, they're not going in cold next year.
It's a taste, but it's only a taste because my freshman, and I was talking to him directly about it, trying to guide him through this because he's not aware of any of this, by the way. He'd say, it's fine, Dad, whatever, I'm doing that, that's no big deal, whatever. Well, whatever is not right because when you're a freshman or any of those transition years, you're spending a month, 2 months, by 3 months into school, you're kind of like, okay, these big kids over here with beards, that's okay, I can hang, this is high school, and you start catching your groove. They've only had about a month or two of that. And they're going to come back as sophomores, and they're really going to have to kind of go back through that cultural processing.
Okay.
Like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's an emotional thing that's happening.
But how do you think part of being a freshman or being a first-year middle school student is being the low person, right? The low person on the totem pole. But they're not going to be that. They're going to actually have some people who are,
But they're going to feel that way.
Under them.
They're going to feel that way. That transitioning isn't happening. And, oh, by the way, when school starts in August or whatever, these kids might not have normalcy then either.
But kids are pretty resilient, right? I mean, so are you seeing questions from parents in your office or from kids in your office? I mean, how do you think? What's your experience and stuff like that?
My thinking process, yeah, and I think I'll begin seeing that when kids are next year.
Yeah,
when they're kind of trying to adjust to essentially what is 5 or 6 months of summer. I don't think they have any idea yet, and I don't think we're prepared for it. So part of this show is like, what do we need to be prepared for, and how can we be? Well, I haven't really put a lot of thought to how can we be prepared for, but I think that what's so crazy about this coronavirus is things are happening like so fast, decisions are being made, and situations are occurring, and we don't even know what to anticipate. So this is probably an attempt to sort of anticipate some of those things. A good example with this socialization or culture, Craig, you talk to any kindergarten teacher or especially first graders. First grade teachers will talk about the first day of school and the last day of school being wildly different. You remember that when your kids were small?
I don't specifically remember that, no.
Yeah, man, the teachers will tell you it's chaos the first month or 2 or 3. Like, kids don't understand. You have to sit down, you have to do your math. Now we sit and play, and there's a structure, and there's a process. By the end of the year, first grade teachers are loving it because it's like, oh, it's not, they know what's going on, they're doing their thing, and it is so much smoother. But the beginning is like very difficult on those teachers. So that socialization is what I'm talking about. That's going to be a major concern. Am I getting your brain to think about that?
Okay, maybe a little bit.
Right? Seriously, or no?
Yeah, no, really. For real.
Okay, can't read your facial expression.
No, I think it probably means more to older kids that are at the high school level, maybe. Although I'm not seeing a lot of those kids. I don't know. My kids kind of miss school, and they want to be going to school. They miss their friends and stuff like that. So I can see it being issues.
Which goes to the second one that I'm thinking about with kids: the lack of social contact. I mean, seriously, families are struggling to lead, to be the only outlet, for their social life, and their only outlet, essentially is a lot of the video game platforms and the social media stuff. And we've done shows about how that increases anxiety and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
I think kids, we did a show also on loneliness as an epidemic.
Yeah.
It's exploding right now.
Yeah.
In kids. I mean, they're feeling completely alone, I'm thinking, even though they're plugged into social media and they think in their own mind, I am fine, I'm talking to all my friends.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same. Social media, maybe it keeps you abreast of what's going on, but there's no substitute for in-person interaction. It's not a substitute for that.
Yeah. The education system doesn't really care. This is item number 3 as I was thinking about kids. And by the way, when I wrote these down and went through this, and I literally did it at the end of the day yesterday, and I drove home. As I'm driving home, I was thinking of more and more and more. Honestly, I just didn't have time to write them all down and to prepare it, to be honest with you, because another aspect of it that bothers me, and the concern that kids are taking in their own eyes, and this isn't by any means an indoctrination on what teachers are wanting to do, but the fact is kids are feeling like school doesn't care. This is a joke, and it doesn't matter because the events are being canceled. Kids are seemingly passing through. I hear Craig, I am hearing most of my kids right now that are middle school. I have a couple of in elementary school, and they're kind of saying, we don't have to do this work. The work doesn't matter. It's not being graded, blah, 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 on it goes. And I think they're really getting the message that, unfortunately, school doesn't really care about me. Teachers aren't really responding. I don't get an email response, or I'm not making a connection. That this Zoom thing is weird. It's off the chain. Now, and this is more middle school and high school kids. I think the Zoom platforms for the elementary school is probably working out really well. But as this goes on for many, many months now, are kids going to lose the connection to a certain extent with their schools, about their schools caring about them? I wonder. I wonder out loud.
So you're saying you're wondering if the kids will say that again.
The kids are feeling like the school doesn't care about them. Their teachers don't give a rip. The fact is that stuff's being canceled. Nobody really cares if I'm doing the work. They're not really even grading it. The inherent message there that I fear, and I see a little bit, is that kids are feeling we're non-essential.
I'm not getting that from my kids and teachers. If my kids' teachers are listening, you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think that they are engaged. I get emails from I have had emails from teachers, asking about things. So I don't think that's the case, at least in my experience.
Well, as have I. But now let me be clear. What I'm saying is in the minds of many kids.
Okay. Could be.
Okay. In the minds of many kids, they have developed a relationship with their teachers. And believe it or not, particularly disadvantaged kids and kids that don't have a good home environment or stable supports and a lot of structure at home, they're feeling dropped, like left, because I'm alone now, and a really supportive place that I was in every day is suddenly gone.
Yeah, but do you think they understand what's going on and realize that that's not what's happening?
They
haven't been dropped. They're out of school for a reason.
Exactly. But emotions don't give a rip. When you talk about a lot of times in a therapy office, like, what are we talking about? How does this work? Like, there are a lot of times we have emotions about things and we don't know it. Adults, us, all of us, we're emotional and we don't even realize that we're emotional about it. And I know that's crazy, but I know that in myself. I experience that. And I think this is happening a lot in the minds of kids right now. They're not feeling cared about.
Could be. I was doing a quick Google search to see how does the coronavirus affect children. So I don't usually prep for the show. I'm coming in cold. And, I always beat up on the media. But it's like, why are children seemingly immune to coronavirus? Why children are not immune to COVID-19? Why children seem to be less affected by coronavirus? So it's just like the disinformation, right here on the front page of Google. Why kids are not affected? How kids are affected? It's just, I don't know. That's kind of off the subject, but I'm.
Well, it's funny because it is a little off subject. I don't want to go down that bunny hole again. We've done that a little bit before, but we're part of the media, and I'm just kind of sharing my thoughts. And that's what I preface this show really with, is these are just my thoughts as a therapist working with kids, things I've brainstormed and thought about, and things that I see as potential concerns. And as you point out, it's not going to be that way with all kids. I mean, as a matter of fact, I think my older son, love you, Aaron, he's the prototypical kid for this type of a situation, because he's like, he's not worried about it. Yeah, he's just done. He's like, fine, I'm out. Right? So he's not a good example for that. But other kids very much are. I'm fearful, and so it's not. This isn't across the board. But here's a fact part, honestly. So of those that I just cited off, a major concern that I have that we're going to need to be prepared for as a society is Department of Social Services factors. Okay, some other states have it as Department of Health and Human Services. There's other names, but basically the social services in our state, it's DSS, Department of Social Services, that helps essential feature of protecting kids in homes. Okay, Craig, can you take any guess where the primary reporters are of neglect, physical or sexual abuse?
Oh, they're definitely at school.
100%.
Yeah, definitely at school.
Well, what's happening now that school's not in place?
Those kids aren't. Those reports aren't happening.
Right. There's actually a show notes thing I'll put on here that he'll have on the show notes is the article quote: reports of child abuse are down nearly 40% in South Carolina from this time last year. That scares me to death, dude. Right? Like, think about this. As far as what kids are experiencing, parents are stressed out. Finances are dropping during unemployment and all the crazy stuff going on. And you've got to assume that domestic violence and child abuse and neglect are rocketing, increased. So not that we need 40% decreased reporting, we actually need probably 40% increased reporting, because this stuff is going on.
Yeah. So we just talked to a couple on our last show about marriage and coronavirus.
Right.
They told us that the divorce lawyers were busier than ever, even in the short time we've been quarantined. We talked to Joshua Shea. He says, porn addiction and porn usage is going up. Porn companies are opening up premium content for people get for free. Yeah. Reports of child abuse and that kind of stuff is going down by 40%, Chris, 40%. So I don't want to get blasted by our audience or whatever, but at some point you got to say, man, is the lockdown, is the cure worse than the virus?
Yeah.
Because, there's some pretty good data out there now, and kids are largely unaffected by this coronavirus thing. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on opening back up and trying to get back to some level of normalcy in the world? I mean, because, these people who are saying, well, we're going to be worse off if we don't get back to business.
Funny you should say. I was kind of bummed at myself. And by the way, you just said people think kids are not affected. I'm trying to blow that myth up, because I think that's a myth. I think
they are from the things you're talking about, but I think that the health, the rates of
the infection and the
COVID
actual physical
deaths
stuff,
and physical stuff is very low for children, man.
Agreed, but all this emotional stuff is huge. So to answer that, I have really felt like thanks. Getting dark in here. I have really felt like. And I was joking with a lot of our clients, actually, like, hey man, I should have come out public and said this, because now a guy came out and he stole my thunder and what I was thinking probably about a month ago. Probably it's not an original thought. But have you heard about the dance and the hammer and the dance metaphor?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't even heard of that?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I just happened to see it on CNN and I heard it on a podcast show, and I think I saw it in a paper as well somewhere. This guy came out with a metaphor and he was talking about the responses. And so it's the same thought that I actually had. I felt like there needed to be 2 weeks quarantine, 2 weeks back in public, 2 weeks quarantine, 2 weeks back in public. So you have this back and forth reality. And I think that that's probably what we're going to be studying in the years and really the decade to come. Because I'm not a medical expert, Craig, but I don't think that people are trying to, do something bad to the world. I think they're really kind of saying, as we did quarantine with other pandemics and stuff in the world before, this is not unprecedented. We've done this before. People forget history. But this has happened before, and this is the way society responded. But to mass scale it like this and keep it that way, all these other concerns come up. So I feel like we've got to do the medically prudent thing with a novel virus like the medical people that are talking about that I have nothing but to trust because I don't know. Coupled and backing that down with my professional understanding of what's happening emotionally. And so this dance method of being able to manage this thing so that we're doing what we need to do to save lives and what the medical professionals are saying scientifically with all of that mixed with getting social because we're meant to be that way.
Yeah,
so that's my take.
I think the point is, like, Dr. Phil was on a news channel, and he said something similar to this, and he got blasted for it.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing people say, we need to save lives. The lockdown's saving lives. The quarantine is saving lives. And it is, and I'm not downplaying the seriousness of the virus. I got elderly parents and elderly aunts and family. I don't want them to get sick. But I think that the point a lot of people are making is we're saving lives now at the expense of lives later because of poverty and domestic violence and the things that we're talking about here. So, yeah. I mean, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
It's a tough situation to make good decisions. And by the way, you got to make them right now.
Right.
This is not waiting for you to think about it. This is not waiting for you to study it and to see what might happen. It's like a now reality. Now, arguably, we could have been prepared, but I feel like we're going a little bit too far down this bunny hole, but I didn't plan it, but that's okay. It's a conversation everybody's having in the world, and we can put our take on it. I feel like there's got to be a balance. It has to be a balance of managing other health needs, pandemic realities, and mental health needs, which involves, I feel like, some sort of dance.
Yeah. And you say other health needs. That's a good point to bring up, too, because people aren't going to the doctor now, and
they're scared.
And, there's death because of other issues that normally somebody might have gone and gotten treated for.
Yeah. It's definitely probably fair to say because of the social media impact, I will predict we will come out and understand that we acted too much out of fear.
I think you're right.
Right? I've been calling for prudent decisions. You remember this. I'll cover it again. Prudent decisions based on a calm attitude. Mm-hmm. So we don't have shame. Remember we talked about that? Or fear driving the thing. And thirdly, awareness.
Yeah.
Because we cannot be blowing this off. We cannot be saying this is just no big deal. This is just a mild flu and it's going to go away and stuff like that. It's not, and it hasn't, and it's probably not going to. So we need prudent decisions based on a calm attitude with an awareness built in. I think that nails it. I kind of got that early on, and those three things have stuck with me throughout this whole thing. Cool? Okay, well, let's move on and get out of that. But kids, those are some thoughts about kids. As I'm talking about that, Craig, you have any ideas? Real quick, super quick, because we're not going to spend a lot of time today, but kids are passing on and they're unprepared. Lack of social contact and families struggling internally. Social media impacts. The education system appearing in the eyes of kids that they don't really care. And then the DSS factors. What are we going to do about that? Anything pop off in your brain?
Well, we can't change any of that right now. You really can't. I mean, I think you do the best you can. You put them on a schedule. You don't let them stay up all night and sleep all day. You kind of keep them in some kind of a routine with their schoolwork. Encourage them to get outside and get some sunlight and stuff like that. Maybe if you're homeschooler, you're implementing a recess routine or whatever it is.
There is one of these ones that you can do something about. You kind of struck me when you said that, and I was looking down through these thoughts that I had. You just struck me. You're like, well, you can't really change any of those things right now. I'm kind of like, dang, is he right? He's right. You're mostly right, I think, unfortunately. But the one that you really can is to help kids understand that they are cared about.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Their teacher cares about it.
Yeah.
The schools care about you, particularly with the younger kids. But you know what? Hold on a minute. You know what? With older kids as well, because we know something about teenagers. They talk a lot of bravado. They talk a lot of smack. They appear like they really don't give a rip. They don't care about you. They don't want to be around you. You know what, guys? You got to carry some X-ray vision as adults about that. It's hard to do that as a parent. Speaking of myself, but see through that because these kids also need to know that they're cared about. So I'm correcting myself by saying, especially with younger kids, with younger or older kids alike, they really need to know that the world does care about them. They're not forgotten.
Yeah, and I ask my kids, how you doing with this? You know,
Mhm.
you scared? What's going on with you? You know,
Yeah.
you doing all right?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. No problem. It's
You
great.
worried? You afraid you're gonna get sick? You know,
Great.
whatever.
Assume there's some emotion, might be a suggestion that comes to my mind, because there is. There is. They're fearful, they're uncomfortable, they're lonely, they're scared, they're angry. You know, these things are there, but they're not going to show you the older that they are. The younger probably will show you. So assume that it's there, even if they say, "Oh yeah, Dad, dude, yeah, I'm fine, man. Don't worry about it. It's fine." It really probably isn't. All right, let's move on and be quick about this. I don't know how long we've been going, man. Do you have any idea?
I don't have a timer
okay.
either.
So we'll be kind of quick because I promised a little bit of a short one on this one. But Major League Sports. Let's talk about sports and mental health. Sports and mental health. You know, right now in the world, per a podcast, which, by the way, can you make a special note of that for the notes? I want to people be able to respond to it or to look it up, fact check. The Wall Street Journal podcast episode for May the 1st, Friday, May the 1st. If you can have that on the show notes and people can check that out as a highlight. They're at least saying that Taiwan is the only league playing in the world. That is the only sports thing going on right now is in Taiwan. They're playing some baseball.
Really?
Yes, that's it in the world.
I need to find that, how I can stream that.
Right? Seriously.
Yeah, really. I'd love to see some baseball right now.
I know you would. You're a baseball guy.
Yeah, I like baseball, man.
You know? That's amazing to me, and that's got to be maybe the first time in the history of man. I would wonder if the fact is that's never happened before.
Well, how's the thing in Taiwan? Are they
listen to their show? They document some of that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some interesting questions, and I think you'll be. I honestly, Craig, you especially as a person knowing you, I think you'll enjoy that Wall Street Journal podcast. But what do they provide? Sports is an obvious release from stress. It's a distraction. That's not going to be any amazing fact to anybody. But here's another thing: the physical needs of kids, particularly going back to kids. I should have had that on my list before, right? You know, they're not getting a lot of physical activity. They're not getting that. And also us adults, you know, you can't play sports. Sports is a huge part, whether you're talking about dance, whether you're talking about going into dance clubs, when you're talking about tennis or just kicking around. Like, I don't want to play with anybody in a ball right now. Basketball, that's the stupidest thing ever.
jiu-jitsu, man? I've been out.
You've been shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't go on those mats. I mean, if anybody has coronavirus and they jump into the dojo, it's going to be all over the mats, right?
I guess so.
It's dangerous. It is. That's the reality of some of what we're talking about. You will spread it. So the physical exercise for adults and us and kids and us adults is severely curbed. The other thing is I look at sports as being, if you look at you remember your sociology class as a kid?
I don't think
In
I took
college?
sociology.
You didn't take sociology?
No, I think it was an elective and I didn't take it.
I think everybody thought took sociology.
Well, if I did, I don't remember it.
That's a whole nother episode. It's a pillar of society, I feel like, sports. You know, government, religion, sports, and the family. Like, these are really important parts of society.
Man. I think, football's a religion. I mean, sports is definitely a huge part of life and in our world these days.
And here's one of the psychological things about it, right? It creates a tribal identity.
It does.
It's group mentality.
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
connection,
Yeah.
right? You're a part of something. You're a national identity.
Yeah.
That's why the Olympics are so big around the world.
Yeah.
It creates connections in a psychological way. And I've always told my wife over the years, it's not who wins and who loses. I mean, that's fun too. But it's the stories behind the sports, the competitive nature of things, figure skating and what you got to do to get on a top level. It's amazing stories. And we live vicariously through the emotional stories that we watch, that we're drawn to, because we identify with them. We actually are a part of all of that. When that's all stripped away, I don't have an answer, but what's the effect? This isn't going on anywhere in the world right now. What is the effect of that? You're losing a pillar of the way that we as a human being has functioned. And I don't think people are thinking about that when we're talking about, well, is baseball going to be able to come back? We need the psychological aspects of what it provides, I would maintain. So that's my shot across the bow. What do you see? What are you thinking? Are sports important? Is that a part of the coronavirus story?
Yeah, I definitely think it is, man. I mean, sports is, like I said, sports is a huge part of our lives in America, and it's an out for some people. You know, I got friends, man, who watch college football on Saturday, football on Sunday. You know, basketball. They just that sports is their thing. And right now, they're having to find something else to do, or either watch reruns. I know some people are watching reruns of sporting events. I'm not going to do that.
I just can't.
You know what, though? I have watched some UFC fights that are, but I don't know who's going to win. You know, and I've only been a UFC fan now for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
So I actually saw John Jones fight a good fight the other. I think I sent it to you.
Oh, you did? That was
crushed
awesome.
That dude, didn't he? Yeah,
holy crap! He more than crushed him.
Yeah, but I know a lot of folks who are watching old World Series games and stuff like that, and I'm like, dude, I'm not watching a rerun of a sporting event when I know who wins. That's just not me.
It's a way that friends connect. I'm actually really excited. My brother's coming in town this weekend, and I wanna watch the fight with you. I really feel that it's important for my mental health to watch the fight with you if we can arrange it this weekend. And that's just a little example in the moment, right? Because it's a way that we've hung out, you and I, right?
Yeah.
And that's important. The social aspects are psychologically what human beings rely on to function. Can I say that sentence? That's just real in the real time.
Yeah.
But the sports are a big piece of the social aspect that we rely on psychologically to function.
Watching and participating. You know, I saw my buddy from the academy yesterday, and he's like, he's a Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officer, and he's like, man, jiu-jitsu is my stress release.
Yeah.
He said, I come in here and I roll jiu-jitsu for a couple hours. He said, and I'm a different person when I leave. He said, it's like I say, he's like, it's my therapy, you know, jiu-jitsu is. And I haven't had that in 2 months or.
Listen,
and I'm like, dude, I'm feeling you, man.
Your instructor, Sean McGinnis, was brilliant in a show here with us, and he absolutely, I think, nailed it and was able to describe the emotional change that it brought in his life from being a police officer and a parole officer for so many years. And I'm telling you, it was so amazing to meet him and talk to him and see, and he said, oh yeah, I get that all the time. There was no police officer vibe in talking to him and stuff.
Sean is a weapon. I have been down there helping him film some stuff to put on Facebook, and so he's obviously top of the line jiu-jitsu instructor and practitioner.
Yeah,
but I've been filming him in the other arts too. And my mind is blown, you know.
The other arts, the other
he teaches three arts. He teaches Hapkido, Taekwondo, and Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, okay.
And I've been watching him do the other two.
Oh, wow.
Along with Jiu-Jitsu now.
So you've only seen him Jiu-Jitsu, and you're seeing these other.
He's a killer, man.
Got you. You're even more afraid of him now.
He's a killer.
That's funny, man.
You know, I was ever thinking if Sean got me on the ground, he'd kill me. He wouldn't even get to the ground before he killed me.
And you wanted me to go down there to that dojo, man. Now I'm more afraid. Well, let's wrap this up and get out of there, kids or adults. Don't doubt that kids are affected by this, and your Google search concerns me as a person who works with kids. I would argue that they absolutely are not immune to this emotionally and mental health in any regard. Quite the contrary. And then sports is not, guys. When you particularly ladies, well, not ladies. I should back up on that. Because there are many men that criticize sports like that's not essential, that's not important. Why all these overpriced, overpaid, athletes and there's a lot of issues with football players, not standing for the anthem and just stuff like that. I'm not talking about those issues. I'm talking about sports is not just a meaningless part of life. It is a pillar of society, and we're going to be a lot more mentally healthy when we're able to watch the types of things that we enjoy and do the types of things that we enjoy doing, like rolling in jiu-jitsu or going to dance class. How many people would freaking scream for a yoga class right now? And I'm not talking about on the Zoom platforms. I mean, I've got clients that are actually talking about it. They're getting together with their families and they're Zooming and they're doing yoga together. And that's cool. But you need that live connection.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear we don't have to do it tonight. We're running short on time, but I'd be interested to hear how you think some of the things we're learning from this can be applied after we're through it, like online schools and stuff like that, I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting conversation to come up with some ideas and maybe just bounce them off of each other about how we could. I mean, like you're opened up now to the online therapy, right? You're seeing some clients over Zoom.
Telephone therapy, yes, specifically.
Yeah, and so you didn't think that was a good idea until you're forced to do it. Now you're kind of on board with that now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's definitely some good things that are going to come out of this too.
I think so. All right, man. Let's take us out of here, and we'll fire up with a full scale thing next week. Sorry if we just get verbal. We just go after talking, don't we?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man.
But I guess I'll end with this, Craig. Fear is a scary thing. Fear is a necessary part of life. It helps us a little bit, but in times like this, we've really got to put a coupling on how fearfully we act. Prudent decisions based on a calm attitude and awareness and tact. Those three things. And the important one on the second part, I'm seeing a lot of fear-based feelings being thrown around in the world that we live, and we need to have hope and clarity that we will get through this. This is gonna get better. This is not the end of our life. It's not the end of our existence, and we need to keep a view with a vision towards the future, given hopefulness and trust in ourselves that we will be able to get through this. This is not a time for fear, sir.
The only thing we have to fear
is fear itself. It's true. It's a brilliant phrase that he created back in those days. So.
Who said that? Was it FDR?
I think it was FDR.
Was it Kennedy or FDR?
FDR. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Yeah, I want to say it was FDR. Or no, it was Kennedy during the missile. I don't know. We'll have to look it up.
Yeah, we'll look it up. Google it.
All right, Craig, take us out of here, man.
ThroughItTherapistEyes.com, folks. You can find out about... I blew that on the last one.
Did it again.
I did it twice. You can find out more about the show and Chris and myself on ThroughItTherapistEyes.com. Links to our social media are out there. Links to each show. You can find us on just about any podcast platform. And I think that's it, man.
We'll get better with this Facebook Live thing, incorporating it into the show and getting into some routine with it so you know what to expect. But hope you guys are enjoying it, at least an experiment. We'll clean it up and figure out how to work it a little bit better for your enjoyment. We'll see you guys next week.